Hello, friend. This is Ryan Hicks of TalkToProfit.com, and today we'll talk to you about a great quote by Robert A. Russell, which is, "Habit is God's way of making good automatic in our life." This is a powerful truth, but it is often overlooked because what most people have fallen into because of the fall of man, they've fallen into making habits into something bad. It's perverting the goodness of God and this blessing we have of our mind's kind of going naturally gravitating toward habit, but it's gravitating toward habits for evil, for things that aren't beneficial to us. Maybe not evil necessarily, because people will start thinking about murder and that kind of stuff, but it just doesn't work out for your good. It's not for God's goodness. It's not for the betterment of somebody else. It's not for the betterment of yourself. And so it doesn't help anyone. Many of these habits show up in the form of social media addictions, video game addictions, these kind of things. And many people are addicted to these things. They just don't even recognize it because it is so commonly accepted today that it's perfectly reasonable. And then, of course, there are more sinister, more obvious addictions such as alcoholism and drug abuse and stuff like that. I knew a person that told me once that, well, I only drink because of my work. It's hard. When I get off work, I have a few beers. I don't need it. I don't need to drink. And then they quit their job. They had no job. And then they had to drink because of that. People make excuses to justify their habits that are not helping them, pretend that they don't have the addictions they have. But the good thing about this is that you can use these habits and form habits for yourself that actually work out for your good, that actually make your life better, that make the people around you's life better, that improve the life of people in the world. You can do that by your own habits. But one of the first things you must do is you must recognize whether your habits are good or bad. Now, if you're looking at your life and you see what everyone else has, you see you look average, you look normal, quote unquote, you look mediocre, then I guarantee you have a lot of bad habits. You may not even recognize them. They may look good. They may be praised by other people. People may tell you, oh, it's perfectly reasonable. It's perfectly normal. Yes, of course, you should want to relax on the weekends and watch sports. That's reasonable. That's good. No, it's not. And I can't tell you how many people have told me that they're so desperate to get better in their business and become a great success. And then you call them on the weekend and they're watching sports. Like, you're not desperate for anything except for being mediocre, being average. And these people will make up excuses. Well, I know this one guy's a billionaire and he goes to sporting events. He's a billionaire. You have nothing close to his wealth. You don't have his success. You don't have the thousands of people he has working for him right here and now while he's at that game that he's still benefiting and making money. You don't get to choose those kind of decadencies in your life because you haven't made the effort to get to that point yet. Now, hopefully, as you become more successful, you won't go into that kind of degeneracy where you're just living like the world. You'll want to rise above that. You know, one of the things I stress in this channel, the reason I stress success and prosperity is not for wealth. It's not for money. It's not because of the love of money or anything like that. It is because this whole concept is of getting to be more like your Father, which is in heaven. Become more like God. You don't do that by running off to the latest sporting event and watching the news and reading garbage and watching movies and watching television shows and streaming platforms and go down the line of all this stuff people do each and every day, wasting hours of their day, and it's not making their life better, and it's not making anyone's life better, except for maybe the people who are profiting from you partaking and being a consumer in their stuff. But you can take these things that are habits right now and work them for your good. Listen, you may have to wean yourself off of some of these things. So if you're playing 3 hours a day of video games, maybe you need to wean yourself down to 2 hours. Do that for a week, then down to 1 hour, then down to 30 minutes, and then down to 0. I don't know, but at least do something. If you cut it down from 3 hours a day to 2 hours a day, and you take that 1 hour that you were wasting extra on video games and use it on something valuable and something that builds your business or helps your family out. You learn a language or anything, any number of things you could do that are good. Think of how much further ahead you'll be in life. That's 7 hours a week. That's 28 hours a month. You're getting almost like a full-time job in just 1 month worth of extra time to use on valuable endeavors. And over the course of the year, that's many weeks of actual time being used in valuable endeavors. But conversely, that's weeks and weeks and weeks you're wasting playing video games, wasting watching movies, wasting on the sports scores, wasting on the news, wasting on whatever it may be that is not profitable endeavors in your life that you could in turn be using for something profitable. Use that same time in profitable endeavors. I'm not talking about just financially profitable, spiritually profitable. I'd much rather somebody say, I spent 3 hours praying than I spent 3 hours playing video games. That should be clear and obvious to anybody, that that's more beneficial for you and your life and the people around you's life than you playing 3 hours of video games, or you watching sports, or you doing this and that. These things are obvious, my friend. I know people, this world just encourages mediocrity. And then somebody like me rises up and says, no, we need to be like our Father which is in heaven. We need to be striving every day to get more and more like Him, conform to His will. And remember, His will, as Jesus said, was that we live heaven on earth. That His will that's in heaven is done on earth. We should be enacting that. And one of those things is by being prosperous, by being abundant, by being creative, by having creative endeavors that are building things and blessing others. It's not all about making money, of course, but it's about activity and productivity, because you're like your Father in heaven, and He's working when everybody else is taking a break. Everybody else is babbling about the Sabbath, or they're whining about this holiday, or they're taking this day off and that day off. God's working. And you need to be that same person that rises up and is working. You put in the work. You put in the effort, knowing that God is blessing your hand, making this time you were wasting in unfruitful habits, you're now turning that around and creating habits that are good and that work for your betterment. That's why this quote is so important and so valuable to understand. That habit is God's way of making good automatic in our lives. Don't you want good to be automatic in your life? Don't you want that every day you wake up and you're doing things that are accomplishing great things in the world and is making the world a better place? Do you want to know that your existence doesn't really matter? You're just like everyone else. You could be easily replaced with millions of other people that are just like you, doing the same generic things you do, the same mediocre things you do, the same normie things you're doing. No, my friend, you need to be that person of character and substance, that person who's a peculiar person, because you're striving to be like God. My friend, strive today to be like your Father which is in heaven. Put in habits, instill habits into yourself that make good automatic in your life, and watch as your life becomes one of that blessed and glorious lives that all Christians should be living. I pray this is a blessing for you. May God bless you richly.